Welcome back to the PropLinq AI podcast. I'm Stuart Quintal, the founder, and today we're speaking with someone who's been deeply involved in the Australian property management scene for well over a decade. Our guest is Daniel Bligh, Director of Elevate Property Group, which operates across Sydney and Brisbane. Elevate focuses primarily on property management with a reputation of building strong, long-term relationships with landlords and tenants alike. Daniel, thanks for joining me today.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Stuart.
Now, I like to start at the beginning, like any sort of story. What drew you into real estate and eventually led you to starting your own agency?
Yeah, great question. I come from a farming background, so quite different. I did my university years, did my overseas travel, and was lucky enough to work for a large organisation called Fairfax Media. Now, Fairfax Media was a large organisation, and I felt like a nobody there, to be honest.
Yep.
So the touch points between customer and us were very, let's say, impersonal. So for me, I sought an industry where I'm a little bit outside, a little bit inside. I was able to really connect with people. And real estate was one of those industries, or is that industry, where I think the human touch is really powerful in assisting people with realizing their dreams of home ownership or renting that home for a period of time. So essentially, the human side of property is really appealing for me and my team, as that's where we feel like we make a really good connection, not just the property, but the people as well.
Elevate's been around for about 13 years now. What was the original gap in the market you saw that made you want to focus on property management rather than sales?
Yeah, great question. Basically, I worked for a large boutique agency, if that makes sense. It was a independent agency that had about 13 or 1400 properties under management in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. And I just felt that the principal of that business, he dedicated half an hour a week to his team. And essentially, that team was 8 people. We had 2 leasing consultants, 5 property managers, head of property manager, and an accounts lady. And for him to dedicate half an hour to the bread and butter of his rent roll of his business, I just thought that was really poor. And those meetings were held where he basically was asking about the arrears. He called up the tenants that were arrears, kind of berated them a little bit, was overly aggressive with them, and that was it. That was the meeting. That was one example of how and I'm sure most principals would treat property management as a second cousin and, just a necessity for the sexy sales side of things. So for me, I just thought there's got to be a better way. There is a better way. Tenants are really important to us. Owners are really important to us. They're the ones that engage us. And just showing all sides respect and empathy and professional toughness when it comes down to it is a really big part of how we operate. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the human side of tenancy and, between the tenant, the landlord, and the property manager is missed. So, encouraging to see that you saw that gap. Now you've got a footprint across both Sydney and Brisbane. How did that expansion come about?
Yeah, good question. So in Sydney, we've been operating 13 years and it's all been organic growth. We've got almost 250 properties under manage. And the Brisbane business was an opportunity that came about through an accountant friend of mine who was constantly getting complaints about his clients that were doing their tax returns, reviewing those tax returns like a good accountant, and noticing they were either being overcharged or he was being asked, "Do you know a good property manager?" constantly. So we just connected really well and decided we can do this. We do it in Sydney. Let's do it in Brisbane. And he was really close with his clients and he referred me a lot of properties and clients as a result. So having that natural synergy between looking after customers really like a family member. Was really important for both of us. Our ethos and culture was really in line. So it just goes back to great service, getting back to people, and really looking after the properties like your own. It's a cliche in property management, but if you don't practice what you preach, what are you doing?
Yep, fantastic. Yeah, you've been through a lot of market cycles. So let's talk about what you're seeing right now. With the Sydney rental market, it's been moving quite fast while Brisbane has its own dynamics. How are landlords and investors responding to the conditions?
Yeah, I think Sydney, because we've been going for 13 years, I've been through COVID, and I'll quickly touch on that because I was really proud of our team. It was a very difficult part of the cycle, but we had a lot of tenants just depart the properties just because they couldn't work, as a result, couldn't pay rent. And I've got such a good client base that the owners that had those situations, they were just like, it is what it is. Some didn't even charge any break lease fees. And then we found tenants to replace those, 20%, 30% below market value, what it was pre COVID. So I'm really grateful that we retained all their business during that period and retained a lot of tenants still, and had a lot of thanks from tenants that are still with us to this day, 5 years later almost. So now in Sydney, it's been very bullish. I feel like 2024 was ridiculous almost from how much the rents on average increase between sometimes 15 to 20%. Obviously, suburb to suburb, it was different. Um, this year, it's not been as aggressive, but now we're coming into spring in Sydney. We're starting to see inquiry levels increase, days on market decrease, and the good properties will get snapped up pretty quickly. But uh, the traditional elements of a property being location and the level of modernness to the property, kitchens and bathrooms, fresh paint, new carpets, these are all key factors in letting out properties quickly. So that's going to be the case across Sydney or Brisbane or whatever market you're in. Brisbane market has been very strong as well. Um, However, it's a different demographic for our investors in Brisbane. A lot of our investors are from Sydney or Melbourne, some from Brisbane, yes, but generally, without being too derogatory, um, the tenants in the investment areas that these clients have purchased between $400,000 to $800,000, the tenants are a little bit more hard work.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the areas that they reside in or the properties that the owners bought, their demographics where there's one income, not two incomes, larger families, just less disposable income, and the squeeze is felt more in Brisbane than Sydney, I must say, with rental increases. So that's a
Okay.
bit of a summary from our end.
Are you seeing like tenants? I guess like there's the migration shift from the southern states to to Brisbane. Are you seeing that in your tenant profile as well, especially in Brisbane?
A little bit.
Yeah.
To be frank, our Brisbane clients are mostly purely bought for investment.
Yeah.
So a lot of the migration, I believe, is happening to the more affluent suburbs where Sydney and Melbourne buyers can get a lot more bang for their buck, and they're moving to those locations. So, yeah, as I said, we're quite a wide geographic spread in both Brisbane and Sydney. We do cater for a large spread. So it's interesting to see the different demographics and different attitudes to the whole situation. And it makes our job really fun, actually, to not just have wealthy people, but also have people on lower incomes to deal with. And there's different challenges with both sides of the coin.
Yeah. Now, speaking of geographic spread, like for our listeners, Sydney, like from from the beach to out to Penrith, that can be like 50 kilometres almost. Like it's a huge urban sprawl now in Sydney. What's the biggest challenge in covering such a wide geographic spread, and how do you keep that your team keep that efficient?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a question I get asked a lot. I'm based in Surrey Hills in Sydney. and we do have properties from Penrith to Cronulla to Newport. So never eat soggy Weet-Bix, north, east, south, and west. Essentially, we've got a really good team, both internally and our stakeholders that do the repairs and maintenance. So all our tradies, electricians, plumbers, handymen, builders, they're the key ones. They cover all of Sydney. So we've got small to medium businesses that we give enough work to. They're okay to travel a bit further than normal because there's consistent work that we give them at economical prices, of course, that they're prepared to travel. I think our systems are really good as well, where we produce really clear quotes and work orders to trades, where we provide pictures and videos and description. You know, for dishwasher, we provide, the serial number, the make and model, so people can look online and just make a call without a call out fee, which is, can be $100, $150, $300 for the electrician sometimes. So we're quite smart about how we communicate with the stakeholders, and typically the tradies don't need for us to be there. They deal directly with the tenants, so they coordinate timings and days and don't need keys from us, so it saves them the hassle of coming to pick up keys from us. And also to do our routine inspections of the properties. Obviously, it starts when we actually lease the property, find good tenants, as opposed to tenants that are going to be problem child. So tenants that have got a good track history of either renting previously, have a clean ledger, stable employment, and a good character. A lot of our open homes, we meet a lot of people all the time. Are they positive people? It's a human element, which I talked about at the start, but also the paper element where they've got to prove who they are, where they come from, and to state a really case about they're a good person, good fit for the property and us. We don't want complaints from our owners, our neighbours, our strata committees. It's just a huge element of getting the right people, and that way they provide us access. Legally in New South Wales, 7 days' notice is required to do a routine inspection. But so often I leverage that relationship with the tenants, or we make a call, say, "Hey, I'm in the area tomorrow, I need a valuer through, need a plumber through, need the owner through." And 9 times out of 10, without a lie, they do let us through and they're happy to do it, to be accommodating. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I want to shift gears and talk tech because I know you're open to new systems and tools. You're using Property Me as your main software. How has that shaped the way you run operations day to day?
Yep. So we originally used the market leading software when I first started. It was called Rest Professional. They were a clunky, hard to use system. So we transitioned to Property Me probably 9 years ago. Being cloud based, being 24/7 access, our owners love it. We love it. I'm often doing, well, not these days, but I used to do end of financial year statements and, weekly disbursements in Thailand on a beach or in an overseas location. But in essence, it reduces the phone calls and emails as well because an owner can log in from wherever they are 24/7 and download their statements, download the previous inspection report, look at the rent paid up to, when the next inspection is, and all those little details that saves us the hassle and giving them answers for. But of course, we've got the personal touch as well, where our older owners, usually the 50 years and plus, want that phone call and want that quick answer. And that's okay as well, because that actually is enjoyable, having that human interaction. I know AI is definitely the buzzword, and it will be a huge factor in future. But as I said, real estate and having that personal connection is critical for us to get referrals and do the right thing by our clients and with a bit of context with that phone language.
Well, speaking of AI, where do you see AI fitting into property management over the next couple of years? Do
Yeah,
you think it's more about the back office efficiency, or could it actually change the way you interact with landlords and tenants?
yeah. Already, my staff are using AI to compose emails
Mm-hmm.
and write ads and search for different elements of legislation because there's so much legislation that's always changing.
Yep.
So it's already a creeping into our business, a little bit with photo editing as well. So we'd like to use professional photographers when budget's in place from a client, but sometimes you can edit a photo for $2 and then the 24-hour turnaround time is really good. So it just lightens up the property, lightens up a room. You can insert virtual furniture, and marketing is really big for us. So having a really beautiful property online tends to reach a larger audience because it just presents better, more numbers at open homes, greater competition, better for everyone, except the tenant perhaps. But I think it's really important to be clear in our ads as well that it's a virtually staged property or AI has been used, so it's not completely untoward and a little bit mischievous. I think some agents can be a bit too extreme in their editing of certain marketing elements. And for us, we always fine tune the ads as well. Like you can certainly tell when a robot has described a property and it's bland and it's boring and it's lacks punch. And that's really who we are. We like to have a little bit of sexiness, a little bit of interesting copy in our ads to, again, attract the eyeballs and have more people through.
Yep. So
But
no,
it's
no
more
adding the water, no adding the water views from Penrith then.
no, unless it's the
Seems.
Pean River.
Yep. Yeah. What's what one system or process in your agency that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I think our Google reviews are really good. We've got currently 226, and a lot of those are from tenants, a lot of from owners or other stakeholders. And every time we lease a property, it's a highlight for either the owner or the tenant, where the owner's got security income for the next 6 or 12 months or 2 years,
Yep.
and the tenant's stoked. They beat 20 other applicants for the property, and we've chosen them as the special ones. So we like to ask them at those highlight points,
Mm-hmm.
and highlight points are also at the end of the tenancy as well. A lot of the
Yep.
time we have gratitude from tenants where they say, "Hey, you actually got back to us. You actually did repairs in good time. You actually returned our bond within 24 hours if they were, deserving of that."
Yep.
We give expectations to tenants. Hey, you get your bond back quickly if you use a professional cleaner and do a high standard. It just mitigates any animosity at the end because I do find there is that whole agent tenant friction when they leave a property. So
Yes.
they're probably the biggest things. So for the sake of time, I won't expand too much, but happy to give others.
Yeah. I mean, like obviously, it demonstrates good service. If you know, because Google reviews, you can't lie, and also it's a shop front for you as well.
It
Um,
is.
if you could solve, I guess, one major challenge in your business with technology, what would it be?
Yeah, I like this question. Obviously, we can't clone ourselves yet. That'll be interesting. But I'd like to be less hands on.
Mm-hmm.
I do find it is my baby, my
Yep.
business, and I just can't help chipping in when I hear a conversation with my staff and owners or tenants. I just can't help but say this, that, and the other. There is a lot of intellectual property up here.
Mm-hmm.
We try to put as much in Property Me in other systems that we use, but it does suck away my time to do the bigger things because I love meeting new potential customers. I love open homes, all those sexy things with real estate. I want to do more of. Um, and the financial side as well. Obviously, we're there to act in the best interest of the owners, but sometimes there's little things that creep up with, why is this levy late or how come I get rent this month? And they want to speak to the owner of the business, typically. I've got great staff, but, I engage them from the very start. I offer great personal service. So that's to my detriment sometimes, where I do have to be quite available for people. So that's always a balance, a learning curve for me how to overcome that challenge.
Yeah. So now looking ahead, like in the next 2 to 5 years, where do you think property management as a sector is heading, and what role do you see Elevate playing in that shift?
Yeah, I think we still need property managers. It's nothing like seeing a property in person, whether we're representing an owner or a tenant. We need to physically open up that door. I know we are accused sometimes of just being glorified door openers, but we need to get a gauge on who these people are and giving them the keys to a property. But yeah, I think AI and communications will certainly ramp up. It already has changed a lot in the last 3 to 5 years. I'm always getting hit up by offshore staff as well. I'm always getting hit up by other competitors with real estate software. They can do this, that, and the other. I'm always on property management forums to get that feedback, and people are always asking what's the best tools of the trade, and my ears are always open to new suggestions and softwares. Um, there are companies that have tried and failed to automate our industry.
Yep.
I think there's a company called Different. They tried, they failed. Uh, they had so many properties under management. They offered a lower fee, uh, and they subcontracted a lot of the open for inspections, routine inspections. But yeah, their level of service without being physically present to see the scratches on the walls or get the context from the tenant effectively, a lot can be lost over phone and email. And real estate will continue to be a face to face method of negotiating, mediating, and doing the best deal for both parties, all parties. Without that face to face, I really feel we're in a fairly safe industry for now until the robots are walking and talking like humans.
I mean, I guess people then have to trust the robot in that sense. Look, Daniel, thanks for sharing your story today. And for anyone listening who wants to learn more about Elevate Property, where can they find out more?
Yep, they can Google us, I reckon. Elevate Property Group. They'll see our reviews. That's what we're proud of. Look at our negative reviews as well. I think it's really important to look at both sides of the coin. There's only two or three, so it's all good. I'm okay with how we responded and how they were received. So that's the best way. We've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, but Googling or ChatGPTing may be the best way to find us.
Right. So you've opened yourself up to being searched by AI then.
Yeah, I'm an open book. It's all good.
So whether you're a landlord or looking for a hands-on property management in Sydney or Brisbane, or just want to see how Elevate Property Group approach long-term relationships, they're a great team to connect with, and I'll pop some of those. I'll pop some of the details in the show notes. Uh, and if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow PropLinq AI podcast on Spotify, YouTube. We've got more guests coming up across prop tech and property worlds. Daniel, thank you for joining me and the team today, and really appreciate your contribution as well.
An absolute pleasure. Thanks, Stuart.